Welcome to this Ubuntu Project video facilitated by Zentertainment Enterprises. Be sure to like and subscribe if you learned something new. Now, onto the video.
Well, greetings everyone. My name is Takara Taylor and I am a clinical therapist who currently works with kids, teens, young adults, and some older adults. And I'm excited because I get to bring to you a 5-part video series titled Navigating Youth Through the Lens of Emotional Intelligence and Mental Wellness. Because I just think it's such an important topic, considering that all the just things that our youth have been experiencing lately. The mental health for adolescents is, declining, I guess, in some ways. And so I'm here to just sort of offer some tools, some insights, whether you're an individual navigating adolescence or a caregiver who is kind of guiding youth through challenges, or educator. And, we want to just provide tools to help them thrive emotionally and mentally as they go through different kind of developmental stages. And so this brings me to what my first episode is going to be about, is just an overview of identity development stages that we go through in life, kind of highlighting some of the critical stages that children and adolescents go through, and looking at how their self-perception evolves over time. And so stay tuned. I will bring you some good stuff. So in this episode, I want to do a brief overview of identity developmental stages. There are many theories out there, and I am going to stick with Erik Erikson's theory of identity development and talk about the 4 stages that he covers. Erik Erikson is one of those psychology figures that you learned about in school, along with Freud or Piaget. And so they contribute a lot of, research and development, trying to understand the different stages that we go through in life as it relates to how we develop over time. And so in this episode, I will look at those critical stages of development and how self-perception evolves, particularly within adolescence, just because there's just not enough time to talk about every stage. But I think the identity development really starts to hit home in adolescence. And so let's get into the 4 stages. So imagine your identity as who you are, your beliefs, your values, the way you see yourself in the world. The sense of self evolves over time, and it usually goes through different stages. And so the first stage I would like to talk about is called identity diffusion. Identity diffusion, what is that? What's it like, right? So in this stage, you're kind of floating without a clear idea of who you are or what you want. Maybe you haven't really explored too many options yet, right? So it's just kind of like you're a little aimless right now. And how it can impact your mental health when you're in this stage is that it can feel confusing, it can be unsettling, you may struggle with low self-esteem or feel lost about your future, which can ultimately lead to anxiety and even depression. And so that is stage 1, identity diffusion. Now, the second stage is called identity foreclosure. And so what's that, right? Identity foreclosure. Well, it just basically means that you commit to an identity without really exploring other possibilities. Maybe you're just going along with what your parents want you to do, what society expects from you, but you're not really tapped into your authentic self. So, at first it might feel like it's safe and stable, but later on you may start to feel unfulfilled or resentful, especially if the identity that you chose doesn't really match who you truly are. Now, this can lead to inner conflict and also affect your mental well-being. Again, could lead to anxiety and depression, just to name a couple. And so, so identity foreclosure, again, is the name of the stage. And it's just this idea of, you committed to an identity, but you really didn't explore much. You didn't experiment with anything. And so, there's that. So the next stage is called moratorium. Again, moratorium. And what is that like, right? All these weird fancy names about identity development. But stay with me. So in the third stage that Erik Erikson talks about is in moratorium, is basically you're actively trying different roles, you're experimenting what feels right. You try on different hats, right? You try on different outfits. If it fits and it looks good, you'll stick with it. If it doesn't fit and doesn't look good, I'm not doing it. It's not me, right? And so this stage can be stressful because of all the uncertainty, but at the same time, it can also encourage you to grow, to have more of a growth mindset, willing to try new things and be willing to fail at the things that you try. So you might feel anxious, you might, worry about not having it all figured out because it's really the uncertainty there. And so this is a good stage for self-discovery. And again, at stage 3, moratorium. The next stage I'm going to get into is called identity achievement. And this is the final stage. This is the stage where you've done exploring and experimenting, and now you've settled into an identity that feels authentic and true to yourself. And so this stage is usually associated with feeling more confident, more purposeful, and emotionally stable. You feel more satisfied with your life. You feel content. You've chosen, like I said, you experimented, you tried on different outfits, right? And now you found the one that works for you. It fits perfectly and looks good. And so that is kind of where people like to be in that identity process. And those stages can really impact our mental health in many ways. So if you go on living your life without not really knowing who you are, not looking at your values, not trying different things, not asking yourself, am I the way that I am now? Is this the life that I choose? Is this who I decided to be? Or is this what my parents projected onto me and what society has projected onto me? And keep in mind, the idea is whatever identity that you choose that is a good fit for you, that it's a healthy identity, right? that involves making healthy choices and not things that are detrimental to your health, right? Some people might say, it's a part of my identity to drink pop all day, right? Drink soda. It's me, I'm doing me. But don't think of it like that, because we all know that too much sugary drinks can be bad for us, right? So you want to kind of identify some of the things that will have a positive impact on your identity versus a negative impact. And so a lot of times when we're formulating our identity, we may take on certain behaviors or characteristics from our environment, from others, and they may not be, if you're taking it from a person, they may not be the best role model. If you're at school and you're hanging around people who are always cheating on their schoolwork or their tests, and you take on the identity of, I'm just going to be a cheater, right? You kind of want to stray away from kind of the just the not so positive identity roles that we have, that by way of some negative behaviors and character traits. You kind of try to want to be on the positive. That will help contribute to having a more satisfied and fulfilled life, ideally. So keep that in mind. Other ways that identity development sort of impacts mental health. Um, it's important for you to feel grounded. Having a clear and stable identity generally leads to a better mental health. So you feel more sure of yourself when you know where you're headed. Even if you may have to take some detours along the way, you kind of always have a sense of direction. I encourage you to be adaptable. Being able to adjust your identity as life changes can make you more resilient and more better off when it comes to handling challenges as they come, because they're going to come. Let's face it, like, life brings a lot of challenges, but the way that we deal with them, and if we are solid in who we are in our identity, we're better equipped to deal with challenges. Okay. Another thing I want to say that is important to connect with others. A strong sense of who you are can lead to healthier relationships, and you can cultivate having supportive networks, and those things are also crucial too. In making sure that you are aligned with people who support your identity and there's a positive impact there. Again, like I mentioned before. And so, your journey of figuring out who you are is really closely tied to your mental health. It's all about finding a balance between exploring different parts of yourself and settling into an identity that feels right for you. Okay? Now, so navigating identity during childhood and adolescence can be exciting and challenging at the same time. I like to offer just a few constructive activities that kids and teens can engage in to explore and develop their identities. And so let's get into it. One thing that is helpful is allowing our kids to explore different interests and different hobbies, different sports, music, volunteering. Pay attention to what they enjoy and what seems fulfilling versus what kind of gives them a state of dread. And you'll know it, they'll let you know. and so pay attention to that. Pay attention to if they're good at something. And I will say also too, in the midst of exploring different interests and hobbies, I know that a lot of kids sometimes deal with perfectionism or wanting to be really good at something at first try. So there is a little bit of coaching there whenever they try new things, is convincing them that you have to practice a lot of things to be good at. Doesn't mean that you can't ever be good. It's just going to take a longer time. But it doesn't mean you should give up. And so it's just that fine line of trying to get them to try different things, but also not allowing them to just quit at the first try. Having them sort of identify their strengths, their weaknesses, label their emotions. There's a lot of kids that I work with. Sometimes they just don't even know how they're feeling. They struggle to find, sort of those emotional emotional words to identify how they're feeling. And that is something that I work with adolescents on. And so just kind of getting them to kind of tap into, again, with their strengths, their weaknesses, how are they feeling, why are they feeling that way. Also kind of getting into more of having, using their critical thinking skills, questioning different ideas and beliefs or values, getting to get into, more detailed conversations around that, what do you believe? What do you value? Some of my middle schoolers, I sit down, I have this sheet kind of helping them identify, what their values are, what's important to them, what are some things they think they can work on. So just kind of having a Q&A, with your, Q&A with yourself or with, your child. If you're working with children, you can have a Q&A discussion with children around identity development. Get a sense of where they are. Are they confused? some of that will take some critical conversations. And so getting them to be able to self-reflect a little bit more can help build self-awareness and lead more toward that healthy identity development. Another thing that children and adolescents can do, especially adolescents, is kind of seek out role models or mentors. It's very important for them to connect to positive role models and mentors that are especially someone they look up to, right? Someone they can almost aspire, like look at their values and how they are and how they operate, and kind of want to see that as a roadmap for them, in their own way, right? Don't want to take away from individuality, but we all need a little bit of guidance, and so sometimes having great people to look up to can help us with that, and also just kind of having exposure to diverse perspectives can also inspire and guide identity development. So again, seeking out role models and mentors, building self-awareness, developing critical thinking skills, seeking out new experiences by way of interests and hobbies are the things that I've just talked about. Another thing that I also want you to consider is just promoting open communication. Again, having an open dialogue about identity, about emotions, about their personal experiences, kind of making sure that kids and adolescents have a safe space for them to express themselves without judgment. And I think that parents sometimes struggle with that, right? As a mom, sometimes, I want to be Miss Super Mom, gentle parent, all that, but, and so sometimes we can be a little judgmental, why are you doing that? Why do you think that? Blah, blah, blah. Just kind of hold your peace a little bit, so your kid can feel safe, that they can open up to you when they're struggling. If they feel like they can't open up to you, I think getting a therapist, someone else that they can talk to that is a little more objective, right? I mean, as therapists, we're trained to be not judgmental, safe space, and, I think it's good for, good to send kids to therapy, especially if there's a struggle to communicate with parents. And oftentimes there is, and that's okay. That's just what it is. But that's an opportunity to bring in a mentor or someone to kind of help with that process so your kid doesn't feel alone. Another thing that I want to talk about is just sort of encouraging authenticity, kind of emphasize the importance of being true to themselves in a healthy way, right? Embracing individuality, embracing their uniqueness, but again, you really want to accentuate the positive parts of their uniqueness and their individuality. You do have some kids, like vaping is such a huge thing. Well, again, it's like, I get that you like to vape, but it's not good for you to vape. And so you don't want that to be part of your identity, right? You don't want your bad habits to be kind of wrapped up in your identity, because that can cause issues in the long run, health-wise and all sorts of things. So just kind of encouraging kids and teens to engage in some of these activities can promote a healthy identity development. It's important to provide guidance, allow space for them to have self-exploration and growth. Everyone's journey is different, and it's more important to be emotionally supportive. If you're a parent or educator listening to this, it's more important to just show that you're not judgmental, you're supportive, so they will trust you. Having good rapport with either your child or the kids you work with is crucial. And so, those are just some tips. So again, like I mentioned, building self-awareness, critical thinking skills, seeking new experiences, seeking out mentors, and supporting authenticity. Those are just a few things that I can think of. Oh, and promoting open communication. Being kind of a safe space for kids to go to. If you can't find a safe space, if they don't see certain adults as a safe space, therapy can help. I work with many kids to kind of navigate some of their identity development, and we have really good conversations where we drill in and help them figure out what path they want to be on, and help them figure out what their values are and how can they get in alignment with some of those things. And so thank you for watching.
Please be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to know when we upload a new video.